into week 17, we have some games we need to get talking about because we're starting to get down the stretch here. We have all of these playoff implications, trying to figure out seeding and where teams are going to end up landing. So we're going to dive into some of the top games of the week and figure out what we like, what we don't like, and what some of the interesting games. Keep Close already diving in on this one, saying the Cowboys are done. Lions visiting the Cowboys here in this game. Now, Cowboys been pretty good at home. Lions haven't been good on the road, but they're not outdoors. This will be an indoor game, so maybe Goff can have a little bit of success here. However, that doesn't change the fact that we're looking at this one. The spread of this game is Dallas favored by 6. Total set at 53 in this one. Scotty, I'll let you lead off since this is one of your best bets of the week.
Keep Close. Detroit is elite? Are we just throwing that word elite around? What are we doing? No, they're not. Why? Why are they elite? Why are they elite?
At very least, for Detroit, Detroit's already won the season in their eyes.
You know
what's already won 2023.
You know what's funny about, you hear this stat and you hear it all the time with both coming into the game, especially this last week with Dallas and Miami. They had combined won one game against a team above 500 this year. Guess how many games Detroit has won against a team above 500 this year? It was the Chiefs. It was the Chiefs in week 1, and they shouldn't have won. Nothing against Detroit, but it literally, I could have caught the ball that would have led the Chiefs to victory there. It's not a big deal.
Which one? You have the slightest idea of how little that narrows it down.
No. Well, there's a lot of catches in that game I could have caught that weren't happening. But otherwise, they beat Falcons, Packers, Panthers, Bucks. Or I guess the Bucks are 8-7, so they did beat the Bucks. So they have 2. Raiders, Chargers, Bears. They also lost the Bears. They also lost the Packers. They beat the Saints narrowly, and they won a close game that came down the wire against Minnesota. And I think Minnesota would have actually probably won this game last week, Chris, if Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson didn't go out for Minnesota. And unfortunately,
the way, TJ's done. TJ's done for next year.
No, he's not. I mean, ACL, MCL. He's probably not gonna. He's not going to be ready week 1, but he'll play next year. But yeah, it's not a great injury for Hawk. I haven't really heard on Addison whether he's going to play this week, but that affected them quite a bit, I think, in that second half. But congrats on a great win when 2 of their top 3 weapons were out, and also they're playing their Nick Mullins at quarterback. The Lions aren't elite. The Lions are good. I'm happy. Hey, congrats to the Lions on winning the NFC North for the first time in team history. I mean that sincerely. Like, congrats. Happy for him. I think Dallas. I just think the Lions are gonna rest on that a little bit. I know San Fran losing opens up the Lions to like potentially getting closer to that 1 seed. But this is a 6-point spread, and I think the public is probably dumping money on Detroit. Well, and I'm on Dallas. Dallas hasn't played perfect football by any stretch of the imagination the last couple weeks, and losses. Obviously, last week's Miami loss hurt. It was back and forth. They were right there. Feel like there was some officiating issues in that game that go pretty crazy. And there's a crazy stat with Micah Parsons, Chris. I don't remember what it is now, but like the dude hasn't warranted a holding call in like 15 weeks or something stupid like that. And it's wild because there's literally clips from this game, not to mention a game-breaking run at the end of the game that sealed it for Miami, where there were 2 guys getting blatantly helped. But I digress. I don't think Dallas is done. Dallas, if they win out, I still think they have a chance at winning the NFC East. If they win out and Philly loses a game, Dallas will win the NFC East. So they win this one at home, friendly confines, get back on some momentum roll. And listen, Philly's not playing great football, so Philly every week is susceptible to losing. They barely squeaked out at home against the Giants. They still have the Giants on the road. They don't have tough games, but Philly's just struggling right now. So I think this one's more important for Dallas than it is Detroit. I don't know how realistic the number 1 seed overall is for Detroit. I think they're probably celebrating that NFC North title a little bit. I think Dallas is pissed off and angry and mad. I think Dallas wins by at least 14 in this game.
Yeah. So you're on
do you
Dallas.
have this as a best bet?
You're on Dallas -6 is your best bet. And here's the thing. I love Dallas for a lot of reasons you didn't mention, in addition to the reasons you mentioned. So this is just a good spot for Dallas. Dallas, first of all, undefeated at home, averaged 39.9 points at home. They're facing a Lions defense that's given up 24 plus points in 6 of the last 7 games. Last season's meeting between these two teams, Dallas sacked Jared Goff 5 times and forced him into 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. I mean, there's so much to love about the spot here for Dallas, and why I think that the Lions might struggle in this one. Cowboys, consecutive road losses. They're trying to get back on track. I think that they could do so at home here, but the numbers just at Dallas at home, the numbers just lend itself to them coming in and feeling really comfortable against the Lions team that might be maybe not as comfortable with the way the defense is going to be playing. I think the defense is going to show up. I think Mike Parsons is going to show up. Yeah, I mean, if I'm on a side, I'm on Dallas -6.
I love Dallas -6. I'm just going contrarian this week on teams that everyone is championing this week. I'm gonna fade. And Detroit's one of those teams. Keep Close is like, why aren't they elite? Well, just to be clear, in like a matter of 1 minute, you said Detroit's elite and Dallas is done. Let's look. Detroit is 11-4. Dallas is 10-5. Dallas's plus point differential is plus 165 on the year. Detroit's is plus 57. So Dallas has over 100 more points in differential than Detroit does this year. Nothing about plus 57 is elite to me. They're good. I think they're a good story. I don't cheer. I hope Detroit has success in the playoffs and plays well. But there's nothing about this team that screams elite to me in any respect yet. It's way too soon to say that.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, but Dallas has lost to the Cardinals. And Detroit has lost to the Bears and Packers and Seahawks and lost by 32 to the Ravens. So we can do all that if you want.
Yeah, I think, again, it's the spot for me. It's the spot, and I think the better team is Dallas. I mean, you mentioned Philadelphia coming in as well. Like, if I have a team to trust, if I have a team to win me a game tomorrow, regardless of, I would trust Dallas more than I would Philadelphia. But that's just me.
Philly, speaking of struggling, they're 11-4. They're plus 26 point differential, Chris. They squeaked out a win against New York. The good news for them is they have Arizona and New York left, so maybe they win both those games, but I think they lose one.
Well, and
I think Philly somehow loses one of those.
And that Cowboys-Cardinals game was a trap game anyway, right? Because you had Dobbs, 1 game or 2 games after being there, which he's like elite after 2 games. And then also it's on the road. The Cowboys are way better at home. Again.
No excuses for Dallas. They played like shit that game. So they got what they deserved.
But yeah, all the numbers say Dallas should be comfortable in this game. All right, Packers and Vikings here. All right, so here we go. Packers, Vikings, Minnesota currently at a -1.5, which means they're favored to win this game by at least 2. Total set at 46. This is the Monday night game, divisional rivalry. And Scotty, what are your takes on this one?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this will be interesting. Listen, both teams 7-8. Team that wins has, if they can win in week 18, a pretty good shot. You look at the 6 and 7 seeds along with the 4; they're all 8 and 7. So 7 and 8 in the NFC is very alive. Where in the AFC, it's not as much, just because of the amount of teams that are above 500. So this one is an elimination game, Chris, which is kind of nice. Let's figure out who it is. I lean. Listen, well, again, I would have taken Minnesota if Hawkinson and Addison were healthy. I'd take Minnesota -1.5 in a second. Without those two, I have nerves on, like, you're just forcing the ball. Especially, listen, Nick Mullins, I think has some nice features, and he's aggressive, which I kind of like, but he forces the ball to Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson made some phenomenal plays last week because that's what Justin Jefferson does. But there's also the risk of getting picked. He got picked off at the end of the game. So forcing the ball into Justin Jefferson may not be the best scenario for Minnesota. From the Green Bay vantage point, they've looked bad the last 3 weeks, Chris. They got a win last week, but that was barely in a game where if there was one more second on the clock, Carolina was going to kick a field goal to tie that up and take it to overtime. Green Bay's struggling.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, it's a very makeable kick, but
It's also Eddie Pinheiro. He's hit or miss.
regardless, Green Bay has not played well since winning on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs, with a loss against the Giants, Bucks, and then a 3-point win against the worst team in football. So I don't have a ton of faith in Green Bay right now. Maybe this is the week to take him and they turn it around, but, like, I can't figure out why. And they had the weird suspension of Jair Alexander today, Chris. I don't know if you heard about that. The team suspended him because he was not a captain last week, and he chose on his own accord to go out for the coin toss, and he almost blew it. The coin toss with, like, the coin tosses are weird in the NFL where you have to say the right thing. And he almost blew it. And he was like, well, after the game, he's like, well, I'm from Charlotte, so I just thought I'd go out there. And they suspended him for this game. Super bizarre. I've never in my life had someone, one, go out for a coin toss that wasn't a captain, and two, then get suspended. It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
That was a super strange situation. And I have a lot of exposure on this game for my best bets of the week. I have 2 best bets of the week on this game, one of which is my first half of my teaser leg. I got it when it was at 2.5. It's now 1.5. And it might be yo-yoing back and forth. I'm not sure. But I have Green Bay teased up to plus 8.5 in this one. I liked them at 2.5, but I just felt it was, like, easier to just tease them up and feel a little more security in a game that might be a little closer. But Green Bay teased up to 8.5, and also Green Bay, Minnesota over in this one. Now, here, listen to the scores of the last 3 or 4 Green Bay games: 33-30, 34-20, 24-22, 27-19. Now, let me go to the last few games of the Minnesota Vikings, who were hitting overs left and right. 30-24, 27-24. Outside of the Las Vegas 3-0 anomaly. I mean, both of these teams are going to be putting up points, in my opinion, and both these teams don't play the greatest defense that you would expect. You got some players missing on Minnesota, as you mentioned, but I still think that both teams will be able to score. You have the gunslinger mentality in Green Bay with what they're going to try to do, throwing the football. Love has been wanting to throw the football a ton. So, I just think that this lends itself to maybe a higher scoring game. All the primetime unders, that's ancient history. We're not doing those no more. Those haven't been really hitting at all recently. So, you know what? We're going to hit that over, but it'll be an interesting game.
You want to know another trend? You want to know a trend that's been hitting? The last 8 Monday night games, the underdog has won outright.
That's true. Actually, I think I saw that somewhere too, where it just helps the Packers side for me at least. But
And then also for the over/under, even if you don't like the Vikings without the receivers, they're also going against a defense led by Joe Barry. So right there, that's a free 20 points.
Yeah,
before the ball's kicked off.
There's going to be meltdowns on defense for both teams, I think. So yeah, I think this could be I feel really good about those two for Monday night. But yeah, a great matchup. I'm excited for this one a lot. This one's going to be a fun one. All right, next up, Scotty. We got one of the better matchups of the weekend. We have the Dolphins visiting the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore currently favored by 3 in this matchup. And then the total set to 47. Baltimore coming off that massive win against the San Francisco 49ers, which no one expected. Scotty, we were like, oh, Baltimore's going to get boat raced in this one. And it was the opposite that happened because Mr. MVP decided to maybe throw...
Mr. MVP showed up.
Mr. MVP. Most valuable Purdy? Because he's wasn't the most valuable player on that particular night. Ravens at home. Now, Scotty, this is also one of your best bets of the week in this one.
Oh, yeah, I got it at 3.5, but give me Miami all day at 3.5. Both teams coming off big wins. Obviously, Miami getting that win against Dallas, and then Baltimore feeling slighted for some reason, being underdogs against San Francisco on the road. They go out. They played well. I mean, they created the turnovers. They played well. They forced Brock into bad decisions. But if you actually look at that game from a broad scope, like even when it was ugly, the score was ugly, and the yardage was like, you actually like take away the turnovers. San Francisco in that game was still the more successful team offensively. Brock, even in his limited action, completed more yards than Lamar Jackson passing in this game. Christian McCaffrey was very successful. He had 100+ yards on 14 carries on the ground. There was things there. It was the turnovers. So now everyone's hyping the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's now the front runner for MVP. And let me be clear. It wouldn't surprise me if they give it to him, and it is what it is. When Lamar won it several years back, there was no debate. He deserved it that year. He was great that year. The dude, statistically and team performance, was so much better that year than they are this year, especially statistically. I mean, he ran for like 1,200, 1,300 yards that year. Right now, he's sitting at like 700, 800. Less passing yards. I mean, he throws for like 221 yards a game. He's just not the MVP for me. Give it to Christian McCaffrey.
McCaffrey deserves it.
I think that's the MVP.
Stop.
But regardless, it's not that Lamar's not playing well. He's doing good things, and I know. Listen, everyone's like, oh, but look what Lamar does without wide receivers. Do people not know that Baltimore has invested in the last like 5 years 3 first-round picks on wide receivers? And then not all of them are still there, and maybe it's like 6 years. But Hollywood Brown was a first-round pick. Rashad Bateman was a first-round pick. Zay Flowers was a first-round pick. Mark Andrews was not like a deep pick. He was a top. I think he was second or third round. I can't remember for sure. Obviously, he's not playing right now.
Brown.
Yeah.
Same year as Hollywood Brown, Miles Boykin in the second round. He's not on the team anymore.
So
he was cut after 2 years.
This whole idea that they don't invest in it's just Lamar creating everything. I'm like, well, they've drafted a lot of talent. Try to put it around him. Some of it's worked, some of it hasn't. And that's not to say,
at least.
And you know what I missed in the game last week, and I should have looked up the stat. I saw it last week after the game. Lamar against the NFC is so damn good, Chris. His record against the NFC, he's like 17-1 or something stupid like that. Because teams don't prepare for him, and you don't see a guy like Lamar a lot. But when you're able to prep and you're familiar with him, you're able to take away what Lamar can do. And that's what will happen in the playoffs. It's going to happen in the playoffs. It is inevitable. What's the stat? It's maybe not 17-1, but it's something like that.
20-1.
Against the NFC?
Yeah. Now here's trivia for both of y'all. Who's the one NFC team to defeat Lamar?
NFC team to defeat Lamar Jackson. I have no idea. So I'm just going to say it's probably not a team you'd expect because you're
like
asking.
Tampa Bay or something?
It's not Tampa Bay.
I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons.
It's not an NFC South team.
I was going to say we're going NFC South heavy. The Commanders or something?
The Rams.
It's not the Commanders. It's not the Rams.
It sounds like it might be an NFC East, how he answered that.
Oh, is it Giants?
It's
Cowboys?
the New York Giants from 2022.
Giants. Okay, see?
It was last year's Giants.
Giants. Okay, there you go.
Oh. Overall in this game, I'm just fading the hype on Baltimore a little bit. I got it at 3.5, which I like a lot more. So if you can get Miami at plus 3.5 in a game, listen, Miami's good. Miami is good. Are they elite where they're going to blow out a team? But like they're going to hang in this game. I think, and there's a lot on the line here. I think, what are they? They're separated by one game in the standings. So if Miami wins, I would imagine they would then take over the number 1 overall seed in the AFC, which means it's important for Baltimore too. But I think Miami wins this game outright, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. I could see Miami. I could see here's the thing. I stayed away from betting this game because I didn't want any part of it, based off of the fact that like the Ravens just got off like their in-season Super Bowl playing potentially a Super Bowl matchup. If they happen to make it that far, which we don't believe they will. But, I mean, that 49er win was everything for them. And they like all the chirping, all the talking afterwards, like, oh, you guys are disrespecting us leading into the game. Look at all this talk. Like, it's still in their heads, right? They're still like, oh, y'all are against us. So, like, part of me thinks that's like they put all their energy into that game. Coming home, they're going to be more relaxed. They might not be... that's a physical game they just played. So that's one aspect of why I like, the Miami side. But then again, Miami on the road against a top defense, Miami on the road against good teams hasn't been a very favorable spot this season, which is the one thing that kind of worries me a little bit. Is Jalen Waddle out? I think he might be out, right? I don't think
I know he had an ankle thing.
He had an ankle thing, so that's an issue that maybe they throw double teams at Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill can do whatever he wants whenever he wants. So I'm not too worried about that. So I don't know. I go back and forth on the spot here, and I just can't find a way to make this a bet that I would feel comfortable putting out there. So I'm going to live vicariously through you, Scotty.
I'll take it then. I'll take it for us. If you're going to be a bitch, I'll do it. No, I'm just kidding.
I just know that I'm going to be sweating the shit out of this one.
So you got to remember also the Dolphins have not been good against good teams.
Well, and
I call them the Cowboys of the AFC. They just beat the Cowboys in the Frog Bowl.
B Smokey, I saw this also earlier today too, but B Smokey says it again here. Miami actually beat Baltimore last year in Baltimore, which for some reason Miami plays Baltimore well. I think I maybe heard something else where Miami has every time they play Baltimore, they play fairly well. So yeah, too many conflicting things for me on this one. But I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. So, we'll see what happens with this one. Next,
on paper, that should be along with maybe Detroit, Dallas, the two
top games,
best games on paper. Yeah,
one of the best games that no one cares about, that everyone that actually matters. Scotty, Saints and Bucks. I don't know if Blue is still in the chat. You're my boy, Blue. Where you at? We'll talk about your boys. Saints and Bucks. NFC South battle here. And we have all sorts of things happening with this one based off of the fact that this division is just locked up all together. We have 3 teams that are within each other. Tampa Bay 8-7, Atlanta Falcons 7-8, and New Orleans Saints 7-8. So this is an important game, obviously, when you're locked up with 3 teams all in one division with basically the same record. It all becomes important down the stretch. So these division matchups are going to be super crazy. Tampa Bay -2.5 in this one, total at 42.5. Scotty.
Yeah, I mean, all the momentum seems to be with the Bucks. Quietly, the Bucks have been
4-game win streak.
4-game win streak. Listen, this isn't against the best. I mean, 3-point win over the Panthers, close win against the Falcons by 4. Beat Green Bay and then beat the Jaguars in convincing fashion. I was on the Bucks. That was like the only game I think I hit. Maybe I hit another one last week, but I was on the Bucks against the Jags last week. They blew them out at home. Baker's playing good football, Chris. He looks more confident than maybe he's ever been. Like there was the one year in Cleveland where he got them a playoff win that you could compare it to, but this seems like a player that's going to stick around in Tampa Bay after this year. Wouldn't shock me at all. And I like what Baker's become. He's removed himself from some of the media stuff, and he's just focused on football and being a better player, and he's made that happen for himself. So, Saints wise, I mean, Derek Carr is. Like Saints fans, I mean, don't like Derek Carr. Blue was on here earlier, and he's like, I'm already... And he hasn't been there a year yet. It's just, he's not an inspiring guy. He's inconsistent as hell. They fought against a Rams team that's good last week, but weren't able to get it done. This is huge for them. I mean, they have Bucks Falcons to close. They're going to have... If they win both, they will win the NFC South, Chris. I don't think they need anything else to happen. If they beat both the Bucks and Falcons, they will win the NFC South, I believe. So everything's in front of them. Now the question is, you're going on the road. It's outdoors. It's a team that's playing better than you and the Bucks. I like the Bucks. I don't know why this is 2.5. I'm on Tampa -2.5 as one of my bets of the week, Chris.
Yeah, best bet of the week for you guys is. For Scotty is 2.5 Buccaneers in this matchup. Now, I let me see if this has moved at all, because I think it was kind of it's still 2.5. I think it was at 3 at one point. But yeah, this is a weird game too, because I feel like the Bucks are in a same position. Remember we were saying like teams riding high right now that are like, I mean, this team is riding high right now. There's not a hotter team right now. There's not a more beloved team that's winning right now than the Bucks. So, they have the weird win against the Packers. They had the win against the free falling Jags, who the Jags are falling off everyone's radar and are riddled with injuries. Like, you got Olave back on the Saints side. So I'm like, this is going to be a super close game too. I don't have a best bet in this one. Initially, when I think it was at 3 at one point, I kind of was like, maybe New Orleans is the side, but betting on Derek Carr to win a game is just painful, and I don't want any part of it. He worries me in the red zone. I'm just always concerned he's going to like do something dumb, and they're not going to be able to put up points. And for that reason, I'm just like, I can't bet New Orleans Saints in this one. I can't. I'd probably be on your side if I had to choose, but I wouldn't feel good about. This is a weird game too.
Beat Up says it's going to be Tampa 41, Saints 7. So there you have it.
Making it easy for us, B-Dub. Carr couldn't inspire a horse to water, to be honest. The city of Tampa Bay praised to Mike Evans on Sunday. I mean,
how is Mike Evans still?
How's he relevant? Like
what he's doing?
I mean, he is.
I don't know.
Incredible.
And by relevant, I mean he is absolutely dominating. like from a fantasy perspective, for everything else. And Cuban's right. For that reason, it's a no from me, dog. I need to get that. Maybe I should get that drop for myself. It's a no from me, dog.
That's a no from me.
Can you say it? in the right way?
Is
Like,
it?
that's a no for me, dog.
That's a,
no, I
no, that you butchered it.
Bruh.
Delete that. Let's remove that. From
clip it.
Clip that out. Clip it out.
That's a no for me, dog.
out.
That's a no for me. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. Thank you, Kevin. All right, we got Rec, your boys. Rec, can I tell you what my lean is? And I know you have a good pulse on the Steelers. My lean is Seattle minus 3.5.
I'm assuming the lean is because we're coming off the high of a dominating win.
Partly. And Seattle, I think Seattle at home here in this situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, like Seattle's one of those teams like Geno Smith is a poor man's Josh Allen kind of. Like you have some weeks where he looks like he could win you a Super Bowl. There's other weeks where you're wondering why he's getting any sort of money.
Yeah. So yeah, going into this one, Steelers visiting Seattle in this matchup here. Seattle favored by 3.5, over under set at 41.5
for you.
Now Seattle 8-7, tied with Los Angeles Rams, who have been, America's sweetheart as of late as well. So they're kind of battling around for a potential spot in the playoffs, whereas the Steelers 8-7, sitting still behind Cleveland at 10-5 in their division in the AFC North. But Rec, I'll let you go first. I'll let you break this one down, and Scotty and I will go after you.
Yeah. So, of course, I know what Scotty wants to hear. I'll give Tomlin props. I'll give him props because he looked like everything was down. Everything was down. Everything was bad. And this team came out. They came out to play, firing on all cylinders. My theory is that for the first time, like he finally had to look in the mirror, finally had to see, finally had to get away from the excuses, and finally had to start actually himself trying to be better. It's either that or he sold his soul to Satan. It's one of those two things.
A lot happened in the last week, huh? A lot's changed in the last week.
Again, I'm not jumping on the Tomlin train. It's one game. I'm not saying he's a good coach yet. I will give credit where credit is due. Last week was a good week for him. Now this week, again, I don't know what to think. Is again, do we keep riding that high from last week, or does it just kind of taper off, or do we just go for the standard? We just go for the 500 record. And even then, we don't even know who our quarterback is yet. I mean, you would think Mason Rudolph would be the quarterback, but it's not confirmed yet. Even if Kenny Pickett's healthy, there's no confirmation on if him or Mason Rudolph is starting.
So who wins, Rec? First of all, who wins? And then we have a lot to talk about on this.
There's so much that goes into this game. My lean would be Steelers plus 3.5. Just because there's no good gauge of this game. You got two teams who are up and down. I have no clue which way either of them will be this week. I lean Steelers 3.5 just because when you don't know, you take the points, especially when it's over a field goal. I don't know what's happening.
Scotty, there's a lot there to unpack. We got Rec.
You gotta give credit where credit's due. You can't say that was a bad week for Mike Tomlin. And as much as I hate the guy, you gotta be.
How was he able to figure it out for 1 week? It's just so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Now, to be fair, listen, they dominated the scoreboard in this one, but this one less similar than the San Fran Baltimore game, because Pittsburgh was on top and beating them up from the start. I mean, it was 24-0 at half. But the yardage battle in this was closer than you'd expect. We always talk about how Pittsburgh loses the yardage battle. They won this one by 30. Now, some of that is obviously they're throwing less up in the second half, but Pittsburgh showed up and balled out against a Cincinnati team that they swept this year, weirdly enough. And the momentum carried to this game. The reason I don't have a ton of thoughts on this game, Chris. I have no idea what's going to happen in this game. What I think it'll be is it'll probably be, I mean, literally Seattle's last two games, they've won 20-17. I'm like, that feels right. One of these teams is going to win like 20-17. I'd be shocked, Rec, if it's not Red-Nosed Rudolph saving Christmas.
Yeah.
Starting, I'm sure he's going to start this week. Seattle's kind of weird. I mean, they had the big lock come from behind win on Monday night 2 weeks ago against Philly. They pulled out a win against Tennessee this past week, but they're not playing great with Geno back in the lineup last week. I don't know. I don't know what to think of these two teams. Obviously, both at 8-7, so wildly important game for both of these teams in playoff aspirations. Lose and you're certainly out. Win and you still probably have work to do. So, huge playoff implications in this one. I honestly don't know who's going to win this game. If I had a lean, I'd probably lean Pittsburgh in the points just because I haven't seen things from Seattle where they can just dump points on the board. And Pittsburgh forces teams into bad situations at times, especially on defense, and creates turnovers more so than Seattle, I feel like, does on their defensive side. So while I don't know if Mason Rudolph's not the answer to the question, but he played great last week. And just threw it up to George Pickens. Pickens made some plays. A happy wide receiver core this week, or at least Pickens is happy. Yeah, he did. So he did miss Deontay Johnson on a touchdown though, which would have made both your guys happy, which would have helped a lot.
So funny stat here: Mason Rudolph threw for 290 yards. George Pickens had 4 receptions for 195.
Yeah, so there's some logic there that might say maybe there's going to be a fallback a little bit because you can't rely on 50 yards a catch from one of your players.
You want to know what I think is one of the more attractive leans in this one that I just have been thinking about since we've been talking about this? That total of 41.5. Yeah, is a little high in my opinion too. I think that this could be a little bit. I mean, you figure the Steelers might not be able to score as easily. Seahawks at home, it's loud. You have an offense that who knows what you're going to get out of with the Steelers week to week, and then the Seahawks are still on the upswing with Geno and what you're getting out of that offense. I don't know. The Steelers defense is pretty good. When it comes to getting to the quarterback here and there. So, I don't know if I would say lean under in this one. It's just a lean. I'm not saying like go out and bet it, but just the way I feel, it feels a little high at 41.5 in this one.
Yeah, like anything could happen in this game. Like I don't think there's any outcome that would surprise me.
There's no safe bet in this one, I don't think.
Yeah.
But all right, let's move on. Bengals visiting the Chiefs. Now, preseason, Scotty, everyone is probably looking at this matchup thinking, oh man, we're gonna have another Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes shootout. We're gonna have high scoring, last minute heroics from one of these teams to win. And now you're looking up at the Chiefs, who just dropped one to the Raiders, and you're looking up at the Bengals, who don't even have Joe Burrow, even in a uniform. So that's what we have here at this one, with Bengals visiting the Kansas City Chiefs in KC. KC favored by 7 in this one, total set at 44. B-Dub, a fellow Chief fan, has this game 13-10 in the chat. The T-Swift curse is real.
That total That total does look high. That looks like an easy under.
Well,
to
and
me.
you got to think that the Chiefs, haven't been able to score. Is 20 points their like ceiling as of the last handful of games? I mean, is that
No.
Yeah, and then of course, one thing I always say, like if you're a good quarterback, you can pick apart zone defense. Big Ben confirmed he is not a good quarterback.
Chiefs
Like he was confused by zone defense all day.
Chiefs totals the last few games 14, 17. No, 20. Wait, where are we at? Hold on.
Their last games 14,
27, 20,
17, 19,
or 17, 19.
31.
17,
listen,
14, or 21. Anyway.
That was the worst. That game on Christmas was the worst offensive performance I've seen from the Chiefs at least since Mahomes has been a starting quarterback for him. It was disgusting from every single player. The offensive line was bad. The wide receiver core was bad. Mahomes was bad. Mahomes, I think in the first half started seeing ghosts because he wasn't getting time, and then in the second half he started getting time, but he wasn't ripping. Like he had open guys and he wasn't hitting them. I never thought I'd see a game, Chris, where the winning team literally threw 0 completions and for 0 yards in the last 3 quarters of the game. It's just wild that occurred.
It's bad on both sides.
They completed a pass. Kong completed a pass on one single drive. Only one drive had a completed pass from the Ravens.
I think, the second drive of the game. Chiefs defense balled out, which is great. I love that moving forward. Chiefs offense right now is in shambles, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned.
That was my next question for you, Scotty.
I don't know where you go from here. Like, it feels like Kelsey's a little slower. He's not fully healthy. He's aging. They double him anyway, because why wouldn't you double Kelsey with the other options? Mahomes doesn't feel fully right and on page with any of these other wide receivers. It just feels off timing. He's not making the throws that to open guys at times. I feel like he should. The offensive line, especially the tackles, were really bad in this past game. I don't know. I mean, we got 2 more weeks, so I keep thinking they'll turn it on, and they haven't yet. Now, this is the best defense they've ever had by far in the Mahomes era,
which is crazy.
So,
I mean,
in the playoffs, anything's possible. There's listen, the Chiefs can make a run in the playoffs because the AFC to me is not, and really the NFL in general this year.
Yeah, it's not just the AFC.
Is very up and down and inconsistent and doesn't look great. So everyone thought it was San Fran. Everyone thought it was San Fran, and obviously they lay an egg on Sunday night football or Monday night football, I should say, against the Ravens. So everyone's beatable. I'm frustrated. That was a frustrating game to watch. Certainly, the offense is frustrating. You see Kelsey, you see Mahomes. They're frustrated and upset. Doesn't feel like they're getting play calls in. Chris, I was not upset when they lost Bieniemy, and I don't think what Bieniemy did provide that this team sorely misses on the offensive side of the ball is accountability. Bieniemy was an asshole, but he provided that accountability to make sure everyone was doing what they're supposed to be doing and make sure they know what they're supposed to be doing and they're not going to be on the field. Matt Nagy's more just he's a guy's guy. He's like, let's have fun. Let's call up these things, but I want to be your friend. And it's not working. It's not working.
Well, and Kelsey alluded to this on his podcast where he was like, yeah, maybe we need to start coming in and talking through game plans a little bit more and doing these things that we haven't been doing and, keeping each other accountable and it makes it almost sound like it's been more relaxed in how they've been preparing for games and how they've been going about things. By the way, shout out to Marie back in the chat for the longest time.
What's going on?
Welcome back. Thank you for popping back in. It's good to have you. Marie has been an OG from our show from the very beginning, when we first started the show, and it's good to have you in. It's good to have you. But welcome.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Coca-Cola. Let's go.
It's been a minute, but yeah, I mean,
things are going well, Marie. I mean, they should be going well. I don't even know the last time, but we got a Nuggets title.
Also,
We got good things happening.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't recent, but I don't know.
Earlier, we was like, "Oh, hey, now this guy's finally feeling our pain."
Yeah, not quite to the extent that we are, Marie, but he's starting to get to that breaking point of how he's feeling.
A scooter?
What?
Why?
Marie,
On purpose?
Be safe out there. Be safe out there.
Hope you had your helmet on. Tore your ACL?
AC.
Bruh.
Ooh,
I had to go to Utah for surgery. Do they not perform ACL surgeries here in Colorado?
Weird. I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
An ACL surgery off a scooter crash. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
That's a first.
Wow.
Not 50 plus.
The Chiefs' offense has collapsed like a folding table that Isaiah Pacheco tried to sit on.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was me.
Even on the Kelsey podcast, I don't think Jason Kelsey saw it. He's like talking about, well, you threw a helmet and Mahomes was visibly upset and Pacheco broke the medical table. And I think he was trying to reference that as like Pacheco was frustrated. Pacheco just
sat on the
table and it collapsed. It wasn't like it was. I mean, it wasn't
pissed off.
He might have been pissed off. But it wasn't the reason that table collapsed.
Maybe he needs to be. Maybe if he likes going through tables, maybe we should send him over to Buffalo. He would fit in right with the Bills Mafia out there, right? Hey, yeah. There you go.
And he's in concussion protocol this week, so I don't know if he's going to play because he lost his helmet and got kneed in the head by his own guy. So
that wasn't even the first time he lost his helmet that quarter.
Yeah, it was like separated by, it felt like 4 plays. I'm like, why is your helmet falling off all the time, dude? Strap up.
Yeah. So of course, I was looking out for a flag. Like, there's gotta be a reason for this, right? Like this is a penalty, right? No, cool, I guess.
Yeah, Marie. I mean, receivers have been a big part of it, but I also think has been more like. I took a lot from that podcast of them breaking that down. I mean, obviously, Travis Kelce was really upset and, just breaking down of all the things it could possibly be that is like holding them back. He said, no one's accountable, and that includes me, and we all need to be better, this and that. So, I mean, when you're getting into that point, I mean, how much time do you have to turn all that around? Like with the level of wide receiver talent and everything else that's going there. I mean, like, this is the best year to be struggling in the AFC with the teams on the landscape the way they are sitting right now. So you got to feel good about that, Scotty. But other than that, like, when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's hard to say that the Chiefs are going to go back and repeat this year compared to some of maybe the NFC teams that are playing the best football. And, I don't know.
If they don't figure a way to push the ball down the field and complete passes down the field, which I never thought I'd say, but like, they can't do it right now. Mahomes doesn't trust MVS. His best deep option is like Justin Watson, who's he's Justin Watson. Now, and I was like,
it looks like he likes the backup tight ends. The backup tight ends get more usage. Gray's
not a bad number 2 tight end. Outside of that, I don't know that he's relying on a ton. They didn't have Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, or McCole Hardman in this game. And I don't know if that matters at all because those guys have not contributed really in any semblance outside of maybe contributing to a loss. Outside of McCole, who's just got hurt pretty early on in his trade back, so they gotta stretch the field. Like, literally, the Raiders were just sitting on short to intermediate routes. They gave no respect over the top, and the Chiefs weren't able to beat them, and that made the offense look disgusting. So, It was a disgusting game. I hope they bounce back this week. Let's clinch the division against the Bengals, and then, I mean, almost you could. Maybe you don't want to because you're not playing well, but if you win this week, if you're the Chiefs, I don't know that they have really much to play for. In week,
yeah, you really don't.
They're probably just solidified as the number 3 in the AFC, and maybe you rest guys, maybe especially Kelsey. Like, let's let Kelsey rest and get healthy. I think someone earlier in the chat said, "Is the Taylor Swift curse real?" No, it has nothing to do with Taylor Swift. And these people that are like hating on Taylor Swift is so lame. She's in love. She's cheering on her boyfriend. Everyone else does the same thing, except she's the only one that gets shown because she's Taylor fucking Swift. Let her chill out. Don't hate on Taylor Swift.
Yeah. And also, on the other end of this game, it looks like the Steelers found the recipe to beat the Bengals. Play zone defense. Stop everything short. Stop the screens.
Yeah, and I think
they want to go deep. Let them try. What are they going to do?
Yeah, and I think the Bengals here. I mean, if there's any side here, I don't know. I mean, if I'm just picking the spread itself, it's probably going to be, I don't know. 7's a big number against the Chiefs as of late. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big number, but
I just don't know if I could see that. I mean, it's a big number. But then, I mean,
again,
honestly,
I think the under's the best bet.
And one other way,
that's the bet you should take,
is to tease KC down to -1. I don't see the Chiefs losing this game at all. I think they win this game. So you tease them down 6 points down to -1, and then, just link them with another team. So
Jamar Chase is still questionable in this one. He didn't play last week. So that's obviously a big factor too. Whether he plays or not. It sounds like it's like he could get a numbing injection and probably play, but it sounds like he could have probably got that last week and he didn't. So, we'll see what he decides to do.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. So that's all of our games that we've covered tonight. Let's take a look at our best bets. There's a couple that we might not have gotten into, so we'll talk about those as well. So, Scotty, go ahead, give your recap and rundown of all the teams that you covered, and then also the ones that we did not.
Yeah, talked about Tampa and Miami off the top, and Dallas as well. And then the last one, Jacksonville. Jacksonville, to me, kind of a buy low moment. Listen, they get to get back home. They were embarrassed. I think they're finally pissed off and upset. They get a full week of Trevor Lawrence after he was in concussion protocol, and you get a winless team on the road this year in the Carolina Panthers. If Jacksonville can't win by a touchdown at home against Carolina this week, I don't know what. Like, they're done. They're done. They might be done either way, but like, they're done. I don't even, if they win this game by less than 7, I don't even care. They're not going to win a playoff game. This is the moment. You're upset. You're frustrated. You were embarrassed. You got blown out in Tampa last week after losing on Sunday Night Football the week before to Baltimore in a game. Like, you just made stupid mistakes, or you could have been very well in the mix to win that game. I think Jacksonville blows out Carolina this week. And I think that covers all 4 of mine, Chris.
There you go. I have already talked about Green Bay, Minnesota. Both teams just put up points. So leading into this one, over 45.5 seems really, really safe on this. The other game that we did not cover is the LA Rams. The LA Rams, I know, I think they might be going to Tyrod. I don't know if they got, I think Tyrod might be in this one, right? But I still like the Rams to win by at least a touchdown. They've scored 28 points in 5 straight games. Kyron Williams, I mean, he's going to have a ton of success against the New York defense, allowing 4.7 yards per carry, which is 31st in the NFL. So he's going to have a field day. Rams, extra rest after playing Thursday, week 16, while the Giants are coming off a physical Monday night game in Philly. So I feel like, from this standpoint, I know a lot of people who love the Giants in this one. The spread was 6.5, and it went down to 4.5, and I'm like a little concerned about that because that means the pros are betting a ton on the Giants to cover a number. But I think this is settled too much in the opposite direction, so I'll take -4.5 in this matchup. And then Indy. Indy's playing the the Raiders, right? The Raiders just coming off of they just won their Super Bowl. We talked about the Baltimore Ravens coming off, and they might be a letdown spot after winning their Super Bowl against the 49ers. Well, the Raiders won their Super Bowl against the Chiefs this past week, and they've been, I think, Scotty, you and I listen to some similar podcasts and stuff, but there's a guy that hangs out in Vegas that's like sees the Raiders just partying hard in Vegas after these games. And I just think that it's just a letdown spot for them. Indy can put up points. Indy's one of those stingy teams that just somehow hangs around, and you F around and you find out with Indy, and you don't take them seriously, and all of a sudden they are somehow winning games. So I got Indy -3 in this one, taking advantage of a team that I think has gone maybe a little bit too much of a high after that win. And then Cleveland. Cleveland's the other one. I teased it down to -1.5. And this one it's just one of those games where the Jets defense does provide some issues for Flacco. I think that they might get after him a little bit. And again, they're third in yards per pass allowed, and top 10 in both sack rate and interception rate, which obviously Joe Flacco has thrown 5 picks in the last 2 games. That being said, I mean, I still think this Cleveland team should be able to take advantage of a team that can't score as many points. I think they're going to struggle against the Cleveland defense. I think that the Jets defense just got torched by Jacoby Brissett, turned a 20-point lead into a deficit. I don't know. I just don't have anything exciting to say about the Jets, and I'm still high on Joe Flacco here. So I'm going to tease them down.
It's Flacco.
Whoopsie!
I just can't get it. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
So
it's weird because I keep giving you flack for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still keep saying Flacco. I think it's potential.
It's like with Mostert, but you eventually figured out how to say that.
Yeah, so I figured out how to say it eventually. But there you go. Those are my best bets of the week. So there you have it.